Hi guys, and welcome to Classic Rock and Country Music Facts and Trivia. Appreciate you being here. Before we get started, I ask you to please subscribe. Please share these out with your friends. Today's video is kind of by request. Someone asked me to do something on Chicago, and I found this on the tragic death of Chicago band member Terry Kath. Let's take a look. One name that always seems to appear missing when it comes down to the many best guitarists in the universe articles is Terry Kath. He was a guitarist and singer in the iconic American rock band Chicago, and he drew praises from several highly acclaimed musicians, including Ray Charles and Jimi Hendrix. In fact, Kath was so good that Hendrix professed him to be one of his favorite guitarists and believed he was actually the better overall guitar player. Very high praise. Chicago formed in '67, with Kath being one of the founding members. With him in the band, Chicago recorded and released 9 studio albums until '78. For it was in that year, in the late '70s, that tragedy struck the band. Like many rock musicians of the time, Kath had a penchant for drug and alcohol abuse. He once told bandmate Danny Serafine that he wanted to get his drug use under control. Otherwise, he feared that it would eventually claim his life. There's also the sense within Chicago and across Kath's friend circle that he was depressed and potentially suicidal. On the evening of January 22nd of '78, he visited Chicago percussionist Lourdes de Oliveira, and the two spent the night drinking tea and discussing future musical projects. Following day, Kath died by his own hand when he visited Don Johnson, one of Chicago's roadies, at his home in L.A. Kath had been known to enjoy target shooting and frequently carried guns on his person. At Johnson's, the guitarist began to play with his .38 revolver, spinning it around and on his finger, then suddenly pointed it at his head and pulled the trigger. Naturally, Johnson got nervous and asked Kath to stop. However, Kath insisted that his guns were empty, that the clips weren't even in, picked up his 9mm pistol and spoke his last words. "What do you think I'm going to do, blow my brains out?" To reassure Johnson, Kath showed him the empty clip, reinserted it into the weapon, put it into his temple, and pulled the trigger. Tragically, perhaps unbeknownst to Kath, the gun was loaded, and he died instantly from the gunshot at the age of 31. Several of his friends and bandmates have insisted that the incident was indeed an accident, despite their prior worries over his mental health. However, Danny Serafine also noted that Kath's preferred combination of drugs and guns was always likely to end up in tragedy. He said Terry would handle more drugs than any human being I ever met, way more than normal bear, but it was killing him. He collected guns and started taking them everywhere, and guns and drugs are a bad combination. Regardless of what prompted Kath to pull the trigger, whether he was merely toying with Johnson or whether he indeed had suicidal tendencies, he is remembered as one of the finest musicians of the 20th century. Chicago trumpeter Lee Lothman remembered his Kath's legacy and said, "Unfortunately, his guitar playing has been overlooked, probably because of it being in such a large band, particularly a brass-oriented band. If Terry had been in a trio, he probably would have been right up there with Jimi Hendrix, who idolized Terry. He was still been with us in spirit all these years." That's what my point. The band was so big, so many people in the band that surely overlooked. Everyone was. I mean, they were a band. There wasn't anyone that was really put out there in front of anyone else musically. And to have Jimi Hendrix say he's one of his favorite guitar players, that's what, like I said, high praise, very high praise. That's all I have for you. Hope you guys learned something from this. Don't forget to subscribe, please, and share these out with your family and friends. Have a great day. God bless you. Praying for you.